Are you ready to see how we put our gardens to bed? So today is going to be another day of putting the beds to bed, which I love. I love this time of year. It's nice to get out in that cold, crisp air, just, connect and breathe, and then come back in all tingly and cold, and the warmth of our home. I'm going to share with all of you how we protect the land. I'll just kind of show you guys a little rundown of putting the beds to bed, sort of how we wrap up the fall and get ready to move into that deep rest of winter. I'll see you out there. So the first method that we're going to talk about, all we do is we've pulled up the weeds as the year has progressed. And because we have these beautiful trees here that drop their leaves, we just let it be. You can see we just let it naturally do its thing. This tree dropped a ton of leaves for us this year. And so we weeded in here just to get the majority of the buttercups and stuff out that we didn't want. And then we just let everything else die back naturally. The areas where we can just let nature take its course are always pockets that we really want to protect, because this is where all of our bugs are going to be the happiest. By this time of year, there's a lot of bugs that have already gone to bed, and we don't want to rake up all the leaves, which is their natural habitat of where they're sleeping. This is one of those zones where we just get to let it live. In farming, so much of what we do, it's not the natural rhythm and cycle necessarily, right? Putting things in places so that we can eat them, we can harvest them, we can share them. There's also a lot of ways that we can give nature what she needs, what she wants, So in this zone here, we do what we just call clear and cover. These are some of our perennials. As much as we can, we like to leave them in. This here is phlox, and there's some lupins over here. There's some bachelor buttons and vervain, all sorts of good stuff. We'll leave them as naturally as possible. It does a few good things. For one, it's allowed all of this stuff to die back naturally and then feed those roots. Two, you might have seen in the circle video, I will snap things off and I'll kind of turn them around themselves so that it gives that little sort of tucked in space where good bugs can hibernate for the winter. It can break down, feed the plant, protect it. It does a whole host of great things. Keeps the weeds down, that sort of stuff. I love to watch and try and look out and see what it is that it's needing. What is it craving? What does it want? If you just look and listen, she tells you, she shows you. Of course, sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes I look out there and I'm like, okay, this plant wants this thing. She's gonna love it here. Dig my hole, put her in. And then she's like, no, thank you. We know that these guys are heavy feeders. So the perennials that are planted in here, they want to be richly fed and treated really well. So they get lots of compost, they get lots of comfrey, they get lots of ground cover, and they get lots of love. In this area here, it's where we had all of our tomatoes growing. We did do a clear and cover method here as well, but we just did it a little bit differently. Because this was primarily an annual bed, we just simply cut off the tomatoes and took all of their tops away, leaving all of their roots in the soil to break down and to hold from erosion. And then we just covered it with compost, then gave a good thick mulching of leaves on top so that it has something to protect it and just keep all those bugs cozy and safe.
as they break down and make all that beautiful stuff for our soil.
There's lessons to be learned every single day. The key is if you're out there and you work with the land, you can really start to see what you're doing that's affecting the land, where what you did helped a small little ecosystem to thrive. And it feels so good.
When we put these guys to bed, we put them to bed with sawdust. So we took wood shavings and we tucked our blueberry bushes away, which is fun. You can actually see some areas where the peas that self-seeded themselves have popped up. And they're actually growing, which is lovely. That's going to give so much back to the soil when it breaks down for the winter. Our strawberries are still here, flowering. What the heck are you doing with flowers? Huh? Don't you know what time of year it is? I'm crazy. So in this zone here, we did what we call a chop and drop, which is basically just like it sounds. We chop off the tops of the plants, we dig up the tubers, and then we drop it where it is. So here you can see all of the dahlia bits that we cut back. This was our main dahlia garden. And we cut all of the big tops off and put them on top of the plants so that we could protect the tubers, because we had a lot of freezing days that were coming up. And so we protected our main plants and all of their tubers just by cutting up their tops. And then as we dug up our clumps so that we could wash and divide and store them for winter, we left all of their tops here to break down and act as a mulch in the garden. So all over here you can see where we cut back our dahlias, left all the tops to break down and mulch. It cuts down on weeds, it holds in moisture and nutrients, and it feeds that soil as it breaks down. Typically, there's a couple styles of chop and drop. There's the kind of chop and drop that you can just chop, drop, and leave, and you don't have to clear it out. When you're chop and dropping with things that are more woody, like we have here, it's definitely something that we're gonna clear away in the spring. So we'll leave it all winter to break down. Springtime comes, we'll rake it all back. We'll give probably a good, healthy dose of compost, and then we'll plant. Our final style of winterizing beds is cover cropping. In this area here in particular, the land was very, very dense. Lots of gravel and rocks. It wasn't ideal for planting. So what we did here was we just worked the land, then we seeded in lentils. And when the lentils get to approximately 90 days, typically, they reach their peak bioavailability. So they have all of these beautiful nutrients in them that will feed the soil. So around that mark, we worked the land again and worked them in, and then we planted oats. So this whole patch here was densely planted with oats, and then we're just leaving it for the whole winter to break down. So it feeds all of the microorganisms that are in there. It's great for the bugs, it's great for the birds, and it also helps to hold things together so you fight against erosion and mineral loss. It's really quite beautiful. Cover cropping is super important. So next year, this bed is going to be prepped and so beautiful, ready to plant. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to get back to it, and I hope you all enjoy our putting the beds to bed fall wrap up, and we'll see you again soon.